and welcome to the Survivor to Thriver show with your transformation guru, Samya Bano. Are you overcoming big challenges in your life? Do you want to transform the world? Is fear holding you back from taking the bold action you need to create massive positive change? If so, keep listening and transform that fear into freedom. Hey, welcome back to the Survivor to Thriver show. Last episode, I was making the case that both the fight and flight responses to fear have some severe limitations. Look, they are great for helping us survive through our life's challenges. In fact, that is exactly the function they are meant to serve. They have been deeply embedded, deeply programmed into our psychology as part of our survival instinct. The key word there is survival instinct. They're there to help us survive through life's challenges. However, insofar as you and I are committed to moving beyond just surviving through our lives, we are committed to thriving in our lives, we recognize that we must expand our ability to respond to our fears beyond fight or flight. We need to learn a third way, a better in the context of a way that helps us to not only survive but to thrive, right? By that, what do I mean? I mean a way that allows us to implement win-win solutions. So on the one hand, we can meet our need for safety, security, and on the other hand, meet our needs for taking bold, courageous action. And it is possible. It's always possible. When we have such deep needs, it's always possible to find a way to meet both, to create win-win solutions. It's always possible. We just need to expand our thinking, tap into our creativity, move beyond what we normally do. So the third way of thinking, of relating to our fear, is the way of transformation. The transformation of our fear. So rather than just fighting it or running away from it, or even just thinking about breaking through our fear, think about transforming the fear from enemy into ally. Transform your fear from your enemy into your ally. Because, hey, look, whether you realize it or not, consciously or unconsciously, if and when you respond to your fear in the fight or flight mode, you are relating to it as an enemy, as something bad. And that is sort of where the problem comes from, right? And the problem of it limiting you. That perspective of seeing your fear as your enemy, that perspective limits the responses you can make to it. But now if you shift your perspective and you begin to think of your fear as your ally, as your friend, maybe even as your best friend, wow. Suddenly you will find that all these amazing options open up to you that just weren't possible when you were relating to your fear as an enemy. I mean, think about it. Do you not have very different ways of behaving towards your friends versus your enemies? Of course you do. Of course you do. And so if you can shift your perspective about how you relate to your fear, you can also figure out new options for behaving when faced with your fear. So that is exactly what I want you to do now. I want you to really think deeply about how your fear actually serves you. Remember, the fears that we have, they are part of the internal alarm system that we have. Our fear has a very specific function, and that function is to warn us whenever we are about to do something or be somewhere that might compromise our safety, that might compromise our security. And isn't that a good thing? Don't you want to know when your safety and security are at risk? Of course you do. And who's going to do that for you? Who is going to give you those warnings unfailingly when you need them? Because your safety may be at risk, your security may be at risk, either because of something you're doing yourself or something else that's going on around you in your environment. The person, the thing that is always there for you, always attentive, and always the first to sort of ring that alarm bell to warn you when your safety and security is at risk. How can that thing, or if there's a person, if you want to imagine, if there was a person who served that function in your life, how could they possibly be your enemy? How could they possibly be your enemy? If they were your enemy truly, wouldn't they just let you just walk into those dangers? Just take those risks, blind to those dangers, blind to the risks? You know that saying about the difference between our friends and the best friends that we have. It is said that your friends will tell you what you want to hear, but your best friends will tell you what you need to hear. So if you actually think about the function that our fear serves in our lives, from that perspective, our fear is not only our friend, our fear is actually our best friend, because our fear is willing to always tell us what we need to hear. We may not want to hear it, right? There may be times when I just want to do something. Just do it. Because I imagine, I believe that if I just do it, it'll give me a sense of freedom or excitement and so on and so forth. And if my fear was just like this kind of casual friend character, they would only be concerned about, do I like them, right? They would want me to, because they want me to like them, they will just let me do whatever it is that I wanted to do. They would tell me what I wanted to hear. But my fear is actually my best friend, one of my best friends. So even when I don't want to hear it, that, hey, if you do that, your safety may be at risk, your security may be at risk, my best friend, my fear, tells me, it lets me know, even what I don't want to hear, even when I may not want to hear it. So let's respect our fear. Respect the function that it serves in our lives. Let's appreciate it. Let's appreciate it. So when it comes up, let's honor it. Now, when you have a best friend, I hope you have a best friend in your life, like a real, actual person who is a distinct individual from yourself that you have in your life, who serves as a best friend for you, someone who loves you, who cares about you. Do you always 100% of the time agree with your best friend? Do you always 100% of the time do exactly what your best friend wants you to do? Is that required for you to maintain your friendship? To be best friends, you always have to do everything that your best friend says or wants you to do. Do you have to think everything exactly from the same perspective that your best friend does? No, not at all. In fact, that's exactly what we were saying, that is when you're thinking from just a friend mentality. Not actually, if you think about it, a very good friend either, right? Because when you begin to get concerned and think about, I must think the same way, we must match our opinions and our actions 100%, blah, 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 then you're sort of, again, starting to limit yourself in terms of what you are willing and able to do for that person, particularly during the tough moments. So we don't always have to agree with 100% of what our fear is telling us either. We don't always have to 100% do exactly as our fear wants us to do. That's not what being best friends with our fear is about. But being best friends does mean that when our best friend has something to say, we give them a listen. We allow them to share what it is that's on their mind, that's on their heart, that's in their heart, and allow them to share that, and for us to really listen carefully. Take it into consideration. Take their feelings, their thoughts, their perspectives into consideration, like serious consideration. And then when we make our own decision about how we're going to act or move forward, we don't just think about ourselves, we also think about our friend, our best friend. And we come up with a solution that will not only help us and serve us, but also help and serve our best friend. And that's exactly what we are going to do with our fear. When we treat our fear as our best friend, we're going to find win-win solutions that allow us not only to honor our fear, but also our other needs, like our needs to take bold and courageous action. And it's absolutely possible for us to have both. It's absolutely possible. So, I want you to think about this. Think about how you can apply this in your life right now. What is a fear that you're dealing with right now? And how can you honor that fear and at the same time honor your other needs for taking bold and courageous action? And brainstorm different ideas that you could implement in your life that allow you to implement such win-win solutions, right? And if you find yourself struggling with this, please don't struggle with it on your own. Reach out for help and support. We will, of course, continue to reflect on this and go deeper in the exploration of this idea of how we can transform our fears into our allies, into our friends, our best friends, more deeply over the next so many episodes. But even in the meanwhile, you know you can connect with me if you need help and support. Just go to my website at www.academyofthriving.com, click on the Contact Us page, and you'll see how we can connect. So until next time, I wish you lots of peace and joy.